Word is swirling around that the Fantastic Four movie coming out is woke. Sounds like they will be pushing some political agendas, something that we've seen from Disney Marvel quite a bit lately, and hasn't really been good for those projects when Marvel decided to go balls deep into wokeness. But see what this article says. Fantastic Four First Steps makes politically charged MCU changes to characters centered on gender politics and masculinity. Marvel, when will you learn your lesson? Why do they keep doing this? Okay, major politically charged changes to the Fantastic Four, yada yada. MCU is rolling the dice again with Fantastic Four, the 37th entry in the franchise. Director Matt Shakman and stars Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, are aiming for a retro futuristic take on Marvel's first family. That's fine. I love that idea. I like the trailer. It was fine. But the glossy visuals can't hide a major shift in character dynamics and storytelling focus. The film represents significant Fantastic Four MCU changes that will see a wild departure from classic depictions that have become so well known in the world of Marvel Comics. Let's start with Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Actor Joseph Quinn openly questions whether the classic version of the character, the brash, woman-chasing hotshot that Chris Evans brought to life in the 2005 film, still belongs on screen today. Quote, he was branded as this womanizing devil-may-care guy, but is that sexy these days? Quinn asked. I don't think so. This version of Johnny is less callous with other people's feelings, and hopefully there's a self-awareness about what's driving that attention-seeking behavior. Quinn's Johnny is now defined less by fire and flare, and more by introspection and social calibration. The old swashbuckling charm has been swapped for sensitivity, yet another of the notable Fantastic Four MCU changes fans may not have expected or wanted. Was that a necessary change? Or are they catering to a very small demographic that's not the large makeup of your fan base? This is what the MCU doesn't understand. They keep ignoring their fan base. The majority of the people that are actually going out and supporting these films, they're actively ignoring them. They're actively saying, yeah, we don't give a shit about what you guys want. We're going to cater to this small group of people that are going to be like, he's a womanizer. He doesn't belong in this movie. Cancel Fantastic Four. Can you believe this man? Yeah, you know, womanizers actually exist in this world? It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Not even close. What is the actual definition of a womanizer, since it seems so criminal? A womanizer is someone who has multiple sexual encounters or relationships with more than one woman on a regular basis. While single people can sometimes live this lifestyle without hurting anyone, womanizers may pose as wanting a monogamous relationship but lie to their partner about who they're seeing on the side. Or, womanizer is a term for a man who can get affection from plenty of women but does not have the intention of committing to any one of them. They're charismatic and experts at flirting. They will say and do things they don't mean just to get a woman's attention and maybe even her heart. Oh my God, this is so bad we can't put this in a movie. Like, womanizers actually exist in this world. They're everywhere. Navigating through womanizers is actually part of trying to figure out the dating scene. Like, it comes with the territory. I've actually seen women that are manimizers. That's so crazy that this is something they're trying to actively avoid and go the opposite end of the spectrum with. So weird. And actually, the early 2000s film actually did a pretty good job at depicting Johnny Storm, if I'm going to be honest with you. Then there's Vanessa Kirby, Sue Storm, portrayed as both pregnant and politically powerful, the head of the Future Foundation and architect of global peace. Kirby describes Sue not as a superhero, but as a commentary on modern motherhood and womanhood. Oh, man. Not my Invisible Woman. Quote, "One of the things I love most from Sue's history is when she becomes Malice, and all her dark stuff comes out," Kirby said, proving that while she might share a name with Fantastic Four co-creator Jack Kirby, she doesn't have a healthy respect for his work. "I was obsessed with that chapter of her life, so I wanted to make sure that there were some tones of malice in there. Yada, 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 yada. I've always been really interested in the mess of femininity, and how can you be both? How can you be all the things? Not just a tough, invincible, powerful woman, but also a mother who gives birth, which is itself a superhero act." The implication is clear. The Sue of old isn't acceptable anymore. Today she must embody everything at once: a maternal figure, a political leader, a complex emotional being, and an empowered icon. This is one of the clearest Fantastic Four political MCU changes, defining the team's new modern audience direction. Oh, they think is their modern audience. Well, it's not the majority of their modern audience, I can tell you that. Quote, "If you played an exact 60s Sue today, everyone would think she was a bit of a doormat. So figuring out how to capture the essence of what she represented to each generation, where the gender politics were different, and embody that today was one of the greatest joys of this." The Fantastic Four once stood for discovery, bravery, and family bonds. Now they stand for carefully curated messages about emotional literacy, social progress, and global unity. Listen, I'll be the first to tell you, and if you watch other content of mine, you've heard me say this before. Basically, I'm okay with these directors, these producers, these writers creating their own story. That's fine. They're not going to hit every comic book beat for beat or necessarily create a movie based off one comic book. They're going to draw inspiration, typically from different comics, throw them in the movie, inspiration, some of it hard, some of it loosely, Easter eggs, things of that nature, and then they write their own story. That's beautiful. I look at comic book movies as essentially a new comic book in the form of video media. That's how I look at it. I'm not one of these people who's like, well, that wasn't in a comic, so who said it had to be? This is their own vision. But there are certain things that I do believe should not be changed or drastically changed, because then you are compromising the integrity of this source material and damaging what makes these characters who they are traditionally at their core. Certain things should not be changed or changed drastically. And first of all, changing Johnny Storm like that doesn't make sense. Like, at his core, the Human Torch wasn't going around sexually molesting people. Now, I understand there's some weird comics out there, some obscure comics out there that do some weird things. Something like that may or may not have existed, but that's not the norm, and I would argue something like that typically isn't considered canon either. Oh God, he's a womanizer. Shoot me. No reason to do that with Johnny Storm. No reason outside of catering to these SJWs out here screaming to get people canceled every second they can. Makes no sense. How they describe Johnny Storm doesn't even sound like Johnny Storm anymore. They might as well created a new character. Left Johnny Storm out of it. And then when it comes to Sue Storm, nobody said you had to write her like some insignificant, weak woman that just does what she's told, or a doormat that's thin layered with no story arc. You can make her interesting and creative without diving balls deep into the gender politics. I don't understand why this is so difficult to understand. I really don't. I've seen plenty of movies with strong woman characters that don't dive balls deep into a feminist foundation. I don't get it. I don't understand why this is so hard for these professional writers to write a character without changing who they are at their core or pandering to SJWs and wokeness. I thought Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman movie, the first one especially, did a great job at doing that. And if any movie was going to be in danger of getting balls deep into this feminist mindset, it should have been Wonder Woman, because part of her story is the strong Amazonian woman, everyone at Themyscira, men coming, creating war, all this stuff. Like, that's part of the story. So they had to walk a fine line, and they did it magnificently. Magnificently. Wonder Woman had all the reasons where it could have been woke. And it wasn't. It was about being a warrior. It was about understanding man and understanding humanity and trying to navigate this new world, trying to make sense of it all. I don't know how many more L's Disney Marvel needs to take before they understand this. It's crazy to me. It's like self-sabotage. Like, it's no secret that people, your fan base, the people that make up the majority of your fans, are not interested in your woke material. They're not. It hasn't boded well for Disney, Marvel. So why keep doing this to yourself? Ask She-Hulk how that worked out. Ask the Eternals how that worked out for them. Ask the Marvels how that worked out for them. List goes on. Now look, I'm still going to go watch this movie, and I hope it's good, and it still might be good. So I'm definitely still going to go watch this movie. I'm still excited for it, but this does damper my excitement just a little bit, and I really hope it's not as apparent as it sounds like based off these quotes by the actual cast. Why would they? I don't understand why these actors continue to potentially sabotage the movie just before it opening in theaters with potentially detrimental commentary and interviews. That part I will never understand, and it keeps happening. At some point, I think you figured you learned from somebody else's mistakes. Who was your PR team? What made you think that was a good idea to say that? I can assure you only a small amount of people are going to listen to your words there and read this article and be like, I'm totally down for this. You've just alienated and isolated a lot of people. And I'm sure there are people that were excited for this movie. Now they're just going to wait till digital or streaming. Or some might skip it entirely. In the grand scheme of things, it might be a small amount of people, but we'll see. Because sometimes this stuff can have a huge snowball effect. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm interested in the story. Maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. And I hope I go in there and I enjoy the film. We are tired of going into these movies and getting force-fed political stances, agendas, woke sandwiches, gender politics, inclusive diversity, all this stuff. Like, why is this necessary? Why? And I'm typically not the type of person that's as diligent as other people when it comes to looking for woke content inside of a movie, being diligent about it, sniffing it out. It's typically not me, but sometimes this stuff is just in your face and you cannot avoid it. You cannot. This could potentially be bad for the movie. I don't think it had a target on its back before as far as the content itself, but it certainly does now after this came out. And I think the MCU did have a bit riding on the success of this movie moving forward. or maybe not, being that Avengers Doomsday is coming, and that's what people are really looking forward to at the end of the day. But still, this movie succeeding would help Avengers Doomsday. Doomsday is going to go make $1 billion anyway. That's guaranteed. If Doomsday does not make $1 billion, Marvel might as well hang it up. There is no reason an Avengers movie should not make $1 billion. Especially with Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom and a ridiculous cast punching people in their nostalgic gut. There is no way this movie should fall short of $1 billion. No way. And if it does, I think it is a sign of the times, and Marvel needs to accept it and think about moving in a new direction or something. We'll see. That's all I got to say about it. That's a wrap for today's episode. I appreciate each and every one of you for stepping in, showing your love, showing your support, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Now, I could sit here and smack you all around with the generic like, comment, subscribe BS, but nobody gives a damn about that. So do whatever the hell you want to do, because you're going to do it anyway. Now, I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead. I am Boo, and I am out.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.